Hey guys, Chris here, and I'm a Ukrainian Canadian. Today is March 22nd, 2024. And let's get to the news happening in Ukraine, shall we? So I'm going to talk about two big headlines today, and the one that came out this morning is quite important. These are some internal sources from the Financial Times that indicate that the United States might have urged Ukraine to halt its strikes on Russian oil refineries last week. You guys remember this was a very successful week for the Ukrainians, the one especially during the Russian elections in last weekend, where Ukraine essentially hit dozens of oil refineries throughout Russia. And now it appears that the United States urged Ukraine to halt them because they were worried about the global oil prices going up, and also, yet again, a retaliation from Russia. Now, I have to be very honest with you guys. I think that this is most likely a Kremlin psychological operation to sow divisions. Let's not forget that Putin is a product of the KGB/FSB, and the Russians are very strong with spreading misinformation, espionage. Their troll factories are working 24/7, so they're very good at that. And I think that this is most likely Kremlin's way of trying to sow divisions within the Ukraine allies. However, I'm not discounting, and I'm not saying that this did not happen. It could have. The Biden administration we've seen in the past has tried to have more of an approach that is very safe, and also try to not escalate the situation. You know, this is kind of the running joke. It's too escalatory every time. But eventually the Biden administration just caves in. We're talking about the HIMARS systems, then the tanks that Ukraine received, the Leopards and M1 Abrams, now the F-16s. There was a time where, especially the Biden administration, were saying that's a red line we're not willing to cross, and eventually they did. So I think that this is a psyop operation, but you never know. It could have very well have been a conversation that was had between Zelensky and Biden, or some officials within Zelensky's administration and the Biden administration. And if that was the case, I need to tell you guys that Ukraine has a very strong bargaining chip right now for weapons, because nobody can tell the Ukrainians what they should be doing with their own weapons. These are Ukrainian-made drones with Ukraine-made components, and Ukraine reserves the right to hit critical Russian infrastructure and military infrastructure if it needs. And oil refineries are a part of that. So Ukraine has a very strong bargaining chip. It's Ukraine's hard power playing right now, because we know that soft power, aka sanctions, aren't working. And Russians still are able to find ways to circumvent the sanctions. So Ukraine absolutely needs to, if that is the case, the Americans, especially Biden's administration, okay, you want us to stop this? Then give us the weapons that we've been asking for. And nobody can tell the Ukrainians what they should be doing, especially with their own weapons. And also, we shouldn't underestimate the fact that the news and media always try to hype stories for financial gain. So this could also be some sort of anonymous source that actually wasn't really a source. You never know. So let me know what you guys think about this situation. What do you think most likely played out here? Was it the US that really tried to hold these strikes, or was it actually Kremlin psyops? Let me know. Next, so it took over 25 months for the Russians to finally start admitting that they're facing a war and not a special military operation. So the Russian press secretary Dmitry Peskov now confirmed and admits that now they are at war, to describe the situation in Ukraine. And so this is basically the Russians acknowledging the intensification and the fact that this is no longer some small, minuscule operation going on in Ukraine, that they're really fighting an adversary that is as equal as Russia, Ukraine. And obviously, I think this is also part of Putin's crowning. He feels more confident to call this a war. Right, he feels confident that for the next 6 years, at the very least, he's in power. The Russians have voted for him, even though we know the numbers were invented. But we saw that the Russians did not step up to protest and stop the elections. And unfortunately, Putin easily, invented numbers, got in power, and re-legitimized himself. And of course, Russia, as mentioned by Shoigu yesterday, is planning to form 2 new combined arms armies, 14 divisions, 16 brigades by the end of the year. So that means a new wave of mobilization for Russians, whether it be secret or passive or announced by Putin, it doesn't matter. He is surely going to recruit hundreds of thousands of Russians this year for his total war effort. And it's easier now because it's a war. It's no longer a special military operation. So he won't have to hide anymore as some sort of secretive operation going on in Ukraine that nobody really understands what's going on. Now, as we've seen, the rhetoric is more about how Russia's fighting NATO directly. So this gives a pretext for Putin to mobilize even more men for his war effort and his invasion of Ukraine. So let me know what you guys think about this situation, but basically we were at war for 25 months already. This is, just Russia trying to admit this a little bit too late. And this is a developing story, and I'm not cheering this by any means. I think it sucks. Any terrorist attacks suck, especially against innocent civilians. So there is multiple gunmen right now that have opened fire at the Moscow concert hall. I've seen some of the footage. It's very grim. There were about over 6,000 people in this concert, so it was fully booked and full attendance. And 4 to 5 gunmen entered and started shooting up the place. And I'm guessing that by tomorrow the numbers will be in the hundreds based on the footage that I've seen. The shooting was ongoing for about half an hour to 45 minutes. You can see that the roof is on fire. One of the gunmen actually had a flamethrower based on the footage, and they were just shooting innocent civilians left and right. So remember, 2 weeks ago, the United States and other countries actually issued an alert about a possible terrorist attack in Moscow. Now, it didn't happen within 48 hours, but it did happen because obviously today, this is a massive terrorist attack that occurred in Moscow. So I think the United States and other countries knew that this was to happen. Based on what they said 2 weeks ago, they believed this would be a terrorist organization. So there's a few scenarios again here. I'm not trying to push some stories, but this could very well be an FSB false flag operation. I'm not saying it was, but it could have been. We know that this is not the first time that Putin has utilized false flag attacks in Russia to have more of a pretext to continue wars or start wars. So this entirely depends how the Kremlin reacts by tomorrow or the next few days. We will see what the true answer of this attack was. Or could this could very well be also a terrorist attack, right? Let's not discount the fact that there's many mentally ill Russian veterans. There's also far right movements in Russia. There's also Islamic, I should say, groups as well. So there's various things brewing up in Russia that we don't know of. And so this could very well be as well a legitimate terrorist attack that Russia had no idea of, and they couldn't react to it. So let me know what you guys think about this situation. As much as I have very little sympathy for the Russians, I think any terrorist attack isn't something that we should be cheering. But this is what happens when the Russians prioritize a war that they have no business of having, and they don't prioritize their own safety and their own people. They're going to have more of this for sure, as more and more groups that are unhappy with Putin, that want to have their own way, will start doing such terrorist attacks, likely throughout Russia. So let me know what you guys think about this situation. The US talking with Ukraine to stop these drone attacks. I think Ukraine needs to continue doing that. They've been very effective, and this is cutting Russian revenue streams and also the global, or I should say the local supply of gasoline, diesel, and different other fuels that the Russians desperately need as well internally. So huge thank you for support. Please, guys, continue funding drones, funding the Ukrainians to continue fighting this war and reach victory against Russia. It's absolutely necessary. So do everything you can to continue supporting the Ukrainian people. Huge thank you. Please like my video if you enjoyed this content, and subscribe to my channel, leave me a comment, and I will see you guys in the next one. Slava Ukraini!